Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NextGen Planners podcast. My name is Dan, and I'm the head of community experience here at NextGen Planners. And today, I am very, very happy to be joined all the way from Sydney. And we must say a big thank you to him because it is 9 o'clock at night, and the last thing you want to be doing at 9 o'clock at night is talking to a awful idiot from Northern England like me. And that is Santiago Burridge from Lumiant. How are you doing today, this evening, whatever it is, Santi? How are you doing?
Good, mate. And look, I am half English. I'm going to admit it. My father was English, and just got off the phone to a mate of mine who's in London, who's Welsh. So we can't call him English, but feel right at home.
Going on. Yeah, we've got all sorts of different nationalities going on here, haven't we? We have indeed. Well, it's great to have you on. Big thank you for joining us. And we should explain the reason behind getting you on the podcast is that we do have very similar audiences, even though Lumiant is in the US and Australia and all around the world. But the people we work with are vaguely, well, majority the same people. So it just makes sense to get you on the podcast and hear about some of the amazing things that Lumiant are up to. So if anyone in the audience hasn't heard of Lumiant before and don't really understand what it is and what you get up to, can you just tell our audience what you get up to on a daily basis and some of the cool things that you're up to at the moment?
Try and do it short because I'm sure we'll uncover a bit of the background as we talk through. But in essence, we wanted to create a platform that heroed what advisors do. So we know the great stuff advisors do has got nothing to do with the products. It's got everything to do with the advice and that human connection and that relationship that advisors have with their clients. And unfortunately, no one wants to hero that. So we wanted to create something that defines and proves and shows those clients the extraordinary journey they've been on with their advisor and the fact that they've been able to live their life because of the advisor's advice. So in a simple phrase, we've built a world-class advisor and customer engagement platform.
And if anybody hasn't seen it, by the way, in the audience, then I would definitely recommend to go and check it out because it is very, I'm a massive advocate for it from speaking to the guys at Lumiant like Blake and stuff like that, from what they've shown me and some of the things it's designed to do, it really is, like you said, it's designed to be proving the value is in the financial planning rather than the actual products. And that's where we are today. That's where good financial planning and modern financial planning is that we're trying to move away from the financial advice of the 1990s and 1980s of products and move towards us being an actual profession where we help people on a daily basis. So the tool is fantastic, and go and check it out. So you described it as a client experience platform, and a lot of the kind of stuff that you talk about is this idea of scaling client-centric advice, which is admirable idea, and it's definitely happening to some extent. But what is the actual kind of, again, I hate to sound like one of those awful business consultants, but like, what is the vision of Lumiant? Like, where do you hope to get to? What was the kind of, was it a kind of light bulb moment one night and you thought, oh God, this has got to be something to do better than this? Or what was the kind of story behind it? Where did it come from?
Look, straight out of uni, became an advisor and brought into an advice firm that I still own today. I very quickly realized that I was at the bottom of the food chain, getting paid last. Everyone else got paid more than me, but I took all the risk and was the head of marketing, sales, compliance, customer service, technology, and it made no sense to me. So I started on this journey sort of 2003. I built what they call in the US, a TAMP, or in Australia, sort of a managed account platform, which I just sold actually. And that was a really simple idea that I realized that it was wrong, that I knew what I was selling a client when they walked in the door. Now that's a really important phrase. It's going to cut to the bone for a few people listening to this. If you know what you're selling a client when they walk in the door, you're a salesman, you're not a profession. And that hurt me when I realized that. And so we went on this journey to try and build a platform that could mass customize the investment experience. So that was trying to treat people individually about everything that was important to them, their values, their ethics, their tax, anything that was important to them, and enable it by technology. So that was a successful business I've just sold. In that journey, I realized I fixed the wrong problem, and I'm trying to be a bit short here, but I realized that the value of advice has got nothing to do with picking the next winning investment. There's no advisor in the world that is going to pick the next winning investment. And if they say they do, they're quite frankly lying. It just doesn't exist. There is no book written about the advisor who picks the next winning investment, and it won't be written. But what I did realize is that the real hero of advice is helping people live the lives that they dreamt of. And I kind of did that. We did that as when I got to know you, Dan, or you and your partner came in to see me, I empathized with you. I got to know with you. I tried to understand what was important to your life, spent all this time unpacking it. And then I pretty much sold you what you're going to be sold regardless. I said, I gave you this magical document. Maybe you did this magical risk profile that said you were a balanced investor. And then I gave you a log on to an investment platform to see how you're going to the things that I have no control over. It's kind of nuts. In fact, if you think about it, it's stupid. And you have to ask yourself, how did we get to this place? Well, it goes back to what you said before about the horrible 80s and 90s, where advisors were seen as product salesmen for the product manufacturers, where that's not the value of advice. We know that. The value of advice is that human connection and that relationship we create with those clients. So how could we hero that? And ultimately, if you think about my first journey of how could we mass customize investments, how could we mass personalize advice? How could we treat millions of people by technology about what's important to them and help them live the lives that they dreamt of? And the thing I realized is that, every client that walks into clients that walk into the door, both of those spouses are non-financial spouses. They generally don't know what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming in to see you. Some may have more information about finance. Some might read the FT, or some might log on occasionally to see how they go into that thing, or some might do the banking in the family. But at the end of the day, they're non-financial spouses. And it became very clear to me that technology didn't support that incredible human connection. There wasn't a place where the client could log on and see how they're going to their lives and see the amazing things that their advisor had done for them, help them achieve their goals, help them identify what was important to them, values, help them understand what their best life looked like. So that was the impetus of creating Lumiant. It was, how could we mass personalize this extraordinary experience, and how could we serve more people? We set out with a global ambition, as you kind of already identified. I mean, UK is completely on our, the dark eyes of Lumiant have got their eyes completely focused on the UK right now. And we want to change advice around the world. And I guess the short answer to your question is, we want to change advice, full stop. In my opinion, there are hundreds of thousands of advisors around the world begging for someone to show them that they can actually deliver on the promise of advice, and that is helping people lead better lives. And we wanted to create a platform that allowed them to do it.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most concise and interesting stories behind a business that we've heard so far, because almost everything you said in there, you're right. It will cut people, some people, and it will hurt some people, because it's almost the realization that, yeah, probably that is the way it looks. Certainly is still like that a lot in the UK, and it's like, I love how you said it's stupid. It is. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's this idea of shoehorning something into somebody's life because that's what you need to sell. Whereas it should be the complete opposite other way around. You should start with someone's life and what they want to do first, and then how, if any products need to fit into that, then to discover how that works.
Yeah, Dan, and imagine every client that walked in your door, you didn't talk about a product. Imagine you actually sat there and just unpacked everything that was important to them in their lives and everything they wanted to achieve, all their dreams, their goals, their aspirations. Show them how you could help them achieve that, and track it and make them accountable to it. Remind them of the things that they said were important to them. Imagine if you can do that. Now, I guarantee you, if you engage a client around them at that level, they'll be asking you at the end of that meeting, how do I sign up with you? Mm-hmm. You haven't sold them a thing. And here's this fundamental difference. You said it at the start, and I loved it because I just passionately believe in it. A profession sells nothing, an industry sells. And this profession of financial planning should be the number one profession in the world. It's the most noble, in my opinion. We have the most effect on our people's lives. We're more important than doctors. But because we've become salespeople for the product manufacturers, we lost our way. The opportunity here to become a profession and to just listen, because the profession doesn't sell a thing. I go to see my lawyer. They listen, they understand my problem, and they say, well, this is what it's going to cost to fix it. Cool. They don't know how they're going to fix it. They've got to sit and work it out because it's a bespoke per client. And it's the same for us. So what we want that client to say at the end of that meeting is, Dan, do you look after the money too? It is the best question you'll ever get from a client who says at the meeting, you've just engaged me so deeply, I've potentially just cried with you. I've just shared with you stuff that I've never shared with anyone else before, myself and my wife. Maybe we're just having a conversation that we've never had between ourselves before with our advisor. You've just showed me how we can live the life to what we want. I'm in, buddy. You've just won me. And it's a subtlety, but tech hasn't supported that conversation. It's supported product sales. It's supported risk profiling, which I still, I guess it's kind of a pet hate of mine. Like, so what? It needs to support life. So that's the way we looked at it.
Yeah. It's weird as well, isn't it? Because clients will come to a lot of financial planners either as a result of a transition in their life that's happened, or that they will come to them thinking that they need, I mean, they probably do need, but thinking that the only thing they need is help with all the products and all that big bag of paperwork that they've got in a, I'm going to say Tesco here, but whatever the Australian equivalent is, in the top room or whatever it is, it's getting a bit moldy. And they'll come to the financial planner thinking that they'll need help with all that kind of stuff. And I've said this before on a few different podcasts and with a few different people, but when I was working in a firm, it was such a nice surprise to see clients be surprised that you're not asking them any questions about all of that big bag of stuff that they've got. Instead, you're focusing on, because they've never, like you said it perfectly. They've probably never talked about this kind of stuff before, either to themselves. And that's one of the most joyful things about a profession, is it pulls things out of people that they don't even know, but also to their partners, their parents, their kids, their even their most important business partners in life. They've never said these things to before. And you ask them things and they completely do not expect it. And then when you've got a tool like yours, it's great because it works alongside that to empower that conversation, instead of, like you said, those awfully dull risk profile questionnaires that are outdated. I mean, for anyone who's listening to this, by the way, there was a certain sign that Santi put towards his head there, and you can probably imagine what it is. But yeah, it's true. I mean, I can't think of anything worse than doing one of those. But if you can engage people on the things that actually matter in their lives, and then how their financial situation might fit into that. That is what financial planning is, and the sooner we can get that out there to the world, the biggest difference we're going to have, and the reputation of the profession will go up as a result of that.
And how much fun, right? So
Yeah.
how much fun is that going to be for a young advisor to actually be able to go, you know what, I don't now need to compete on, I got a better product. I can just sit there and get to know my clients and listen. And here's another thing that's been a common problem around the world. I can be, being in the, to be as good as me, you've got to be 20 years in the industries, mate. You've got to sit next to me and sit in all my meetings. And maybe in 10 years, I'll let you at it because, then you'll be good enough to have all the skills I have. Disagree. What technology hasn't done is support that young advisor to give them the framework to be able to engage that client just as deeply, or if not better than I can, by my own personal skill sets. And so one of the big passions I've got is, how can we enable lots of young people to join this profession and actually reach their potential, and just sit there in front of a client. And quite frankly, I mean, I'm just going to give you a sales line, but imagine sitting in front of a client and saying, you know what, I know you've come in today to talk about the investment stuff, really critical, really important. And we do this brilliant at XYZ firm. Like, we are brilliant at it, but I'm not going to talk about it today. Today's about understanding what's important to both of you in your lives. And at the end of that, if you like the way we think about how we serve clients, well, then we'll get to the money. I guarantee you every client will sign up. Okay, there's going to be an engineer probably, or a teacher, or someone like that who's going to go, is going to go, worldwide problem. It's going to go, no, give me the detail. But, I think even teachers lead with heart and empathy pretty well too. So, I think the opportunity to grow firms, to mass personalized advice, to bring young advisors through more quickly is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I completely agree. And this is one of the problems that young advisors have, is displaying their value, because we're in this, or not displaying their value, but understanding what their true value is, because we've been, raised in this, still the industry of, the products instead of the actual service. Every year you think, or with clients, you think you have to demonstrate that you've done something, and usually that's something like, we've invited you to a summer party, or we've done all these things on top of what we've been doing, when in reality, the real value which you can portray, which your tool helps people to do, is the those amazing conversations that they have, and the kind of light bulb moments in people's lives where they go, okay, well, actually, it's not about that. If I want to get here, it's about this. And I could have made that bad decision, but because Santi's told me to do this instead, I've avoided that massive wrong decision. So it's a complete reframing of the way that we've been doing these things all the for the past few decades, of understanding really what the value of financial planning is, rather than it being the products. It's now actually the profession, and it's a service, and that's, if we can get young advisors to think at least a little bit like that, then there'll be a completely different profession in 10, 20 years time.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I'll just discount the last part. We've got to do the investment stuff right, and we've got to do it brilliantly, but it's hygiene. It's literally hygiene. There ain't anyone listening to this, you don't have a better product, right? You just simply don't. And if you do, you're in the wrong industry. You just don't. What we do have is a better way to serve people, a better way to help them live the lives that they dreamt of. So imagine doing a review with your client where you're sitting down and saying, well, these are all the things you said were important to you, living your life close to these values. Here are all the goals we worked out. We're tracking 12 to 15 goals per client on the platform. That's 12 to 15 things we can engage in a review meeting around and say, how are we going to those goals? It's really just, we're no longer talking about product, and how are we going towards your best life? And has anything changed in your life? What are the strategies that we're currently implementing for you to achieve the key advice areas that you want to get to in your life? So we're tracking all that in the platform. So it anchors an experience in something we can control. Now, saying that, the real value of advice is helping people make great decisions at turning points in life. So you, Dan, I have no doubt have had turning points in life. And those turning points are like serious hitting the guardrail moments. It's children, it's marriages, it's divorces, it's deaths, it's new jobs, it's new cities, it's new countries. They're all the stuff that I go through in people's lives, right? And these guardrails that we set up for the client, our job is to keep you in those guardrails. Now, the reality is there's going to be times when you hit them. And the value of our advice is helping you make great decisions at those turning points. That is the true value of advice. You've hit the guardrail, something's fundamentally changed. You've decided you're going to work less and enjoy life more. That means you're going to retire a little bit later. We can't have that holiday house, so we can't put the kids through private school, but we'll understand those trade-offs and make an informed decision. That is the value of advice, and that is intangible, and people will pay for that. The fear is if we don't adapt our business models away from performance, which we can't achieve, we're coming under attack. We're coming under attack by different forms of lower cost, more efficient, better marketed product manufacturers who, quite frankly, are going to beat us. It's hard to compete with them on that. They can't compete with us on heart and empathy. We've got to play to that strength.
Yeah. And this is where we could have gone down a completely different route, which is about robo advice and hybrid advice and stuff like that. But let's not do that today, because that's a complete rabbit hole that I don't want to get into. I want to focus instead on something that you said earlier, which whenever I speak to you guys at Lumiant, when I've spoken to Mark, when I've spoken to Blake, when I've spoken to Ash, whoever it might be, it's always the focus on the non-CFO or the non-chief financial officer, which you mentioned in your kind of thing before when you were talking about the vision of Lumiant. Where did that come from, and like what is the actual purpose of that, and how powerful is, I mean, there's a few questions I'm asking here, but like basically I just want to understand the reason behind that idea of the non-CFO and why that's so important, and why we need to be looking at that instead of just focusing on the CFO of a family, for instance.
To make this, answer this question a little bit more simply, my parents' generation, mum and dad, mum was the non-financial spouse, dad was the financial spouse, right? And we know that's the true, and then over generations it's been changing. But the whole industry's been talking to the financial spouse, right? So we go in, we meet the client, I empathize with you, you sign up, I give you that magical document that tells you how we're going to invest your money, I give you the log on to the investment platform to see how you're going to that thing I have no control of. 5% of clients log on to that. So of that 100% of clients that walk into the door, 5% are logging on. They're not engaged. So for me, that was an opportunity to go, holy smokes, something's not right here. What we're selling them, they're actually not engaged with. They trust us, they like us, and that's why they continue to work with us. That non-financial spouse, as we all know, the decision maker, a guy said to me in the US last year, and I can remember feeling like in myself, like kind of riled as he said it. He said, I always speak to the woman when they come in. I know she's the buyer. What made me angry when he was saying that is he said he placated her. These are real stats out of McKinsey, and they've been backed up by multiple different researchers. 70% of women will fire their partner's advisor on their partner's death or on leaving. 50% of women feel completely disengaged by the advice process, and 36% feel patronized. Now, that is US research. I'm pretty confident in the Western world that would be repeated. Those numbers are awful. And then throw on top of that, just for argument's sake, that 16 to 20% of women in financial planning, and obviously 80 to 84% of men. And there's a damn good reason for that. But anyway, go back to your question. It is the non-financial spouse who's actually the decision maker. What they want out of an advice relationship is everything I've already talked about, which is how can you help us live the lives that we dreamt of? And we realized that if we created a platform that helped them understand that opportunity and heroed the advice, that extraordinary advice that advisors actually do give, and heroed all the extraordinary things advisors help our clients achieve over their lifetime, having the ability and 10 years later to be able to log in and go, wow, look what we have achieved working with Dan over the lifetime of our relationship. Markets are down, but who cares? We would not be where we are today without him. That's what we wanted to create. And that non-financial spouse is dying to talk about everything but the money. And again, what an opportunity. And here's the thing. I often ask this question of audiences when I do public speaking. How many clients do you have? You always get someone to put their hand up, right? How many? I've got 300 or 200. I've got 100 clients, whatever the answer may be in my business. I've got 300 in my business. I said, you've got 1,000. They go, what? No, I've got 300. You got 300 families? Yeah. Mums and dads, dads and dads, mums and mums. Yeah, right there. And children. Yeah. You got 1,000 people. You're currently talking to about 50 of them. Your technology set is not talking to them. They're not engaged. They like you, they trust you, and that's why they work with you. There's a 950 people in that client book dying to go tell their friends about the extraordinary experience they had with their advisor. Now, in Australia, organic growth in advice is through the roof. So I'm going to just, organic, natural advice, clients coming into advice firms at the moment, booming. Long story short, banks left the industry. So there's no banks competing. It's all independent advisors winning. In the US, zero organic growth. They are not growing. I haven't got UK data. Not growing at all. And they're sitting there wondering why. We're leading with the wrong stuff. Start talking to the non-financial spouse who, guess what? 90% of clients are non-financial spouses. It's not him and him or her and her, him or her. It's all of them. That's why they walk into an advice business. They don't know what they're talking about. They want to talk about themselves, their lives and their dreams and their aspirations. Lead with that. Or, when I'm in the US, I try and lead with advisors. You've already got the alpha product, right? You've got this extraordinary platform. They can log on and see their performance against that meaningless benchmark. You've already got it. Congratulations. Have that review meeting once a year. Have a review meeting with both of them, him and her, where you sit down and you talk about their life. And you're not allowed to talk about the money. I can guarantee you which one's going to give you the referral.
Yeah. That's so true. It's funny as well, because every time that I talk, like I said, about this with you guys, I actually think back to when I used to work in a financial planning business and think back to examples of people, and I could think, does this apply? And almost every single example I can think of, what you've just said is completely true. And it doesn't, in a lot of cases, it actually wasn't shall we say, that old stereotype of the male being the CFO and the female being the non-CFO. It works both ways. We've had clients where the female has been the CFO, the one who organizes all the family's finances, which I know is rarer. But like in reality, it was the male who was the one who was, like you said, who was the ones who was making all the decisions, who the CFO was doing everything for, was actually the non-CFO in the family, or the non-financial spouse. And it's once you start, like you said, I love what you said as well, by the way, that there's like, you've got thousands of people who are waiting to talk about you to other people. You just need to engage them a little bit more, and that is so true. There's nothing worse than when you're, I can't imagine what it's like being in a relationship and your spouse is the one who is being focused on, but in reality you've got all these things that you want to do and you want to say, but you're just not being heard and you're not being engaged, and it's a lost opportunity. It's a massively lost opportunity.
And so the immediate answer to that is, I do that. I always speak to the non-financial spouse. Well, that's placating. That's not listening. The opportunity to actually listen. Again, I mean, I can just dumb it down, because for me, this is the only way I learned that this was so important. If I had finished my performance meeting and I walk away and I go to the barbecue and I tell my mates about, God, you're not going to believe the alpha I created, it ain't going to happen. It just ain't going to happen. Right? That conversation is fairyland. Other non-financial spouse goes and speaks to their friends at the barbecue. We just met with Dan and his team. We cried. We had an extraordinary meeting. He is unbelievable. They understand us better than anyone we work with in our financial lives. The things that we've achieved and we are still working on are extraordinary. Guarantee you they will have that conversation. It's just such a subtle pivot. And I feel like we've been sold down the river. I was the salesman for the product providers, and it sucks to say it, but it's goddamn true. And, I felt some of us had to go on this journey and try and fix it. And that's what we're up to.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's so refreshing to hear and to talk about, and I love talking about it. And as something else that is on what Lumiant does really well is helping people to, I think it's the first step or the second step in the process is, we could talk a little bit about the process if we want to as well, by the way, but the second step, I think, is the values, and to understand what really clients really value in their life. And I've actually done this because I was on the Lumiant podcast with Mark last year, and he asks at the end of it, he gives us, like, I think there's a thing, isn't there, where you split them up into 8 different sections of someone's life and then say pick 3 or something like that, and pick 3, and it was massively important to me, and I'm not even going through financial planning. It's just like I realized then what is actually important in my life. So what is that kind of process of, can you just explain a bit more about that process of helping clients to understand their values and how important it is to the whole process in general as well?
So firstly, the platform, there's no right or wrong way to deal with it. Okay. So you quite rightly talked about it's the second part of the process. We have a view, but you could have a client come in where you don't do the value side of the exercise, but we've, ultimately the entire advice process is tracked in the platform for all the way through to strategies, implementations, family trees, asset trees, legacy trees, best life, goals, tasks, everything. But the one I'm most passionate about is the one you just talked about, which is the values part. So it came from this belief set that goals change, values don't. Now, I wouldn't say that's a hard and fast rule. People's values do change in time, and I've experienced that over my life. Your children get older, things change, and you go, okay, well, now this is more important to me. But there was this realization that in order to help people lead the lives that they dreamt of, we needed to understand what drives them in life, and that's people's values. That's who you are. It's the way you were brought up. It's the things that you in your DNA. You're not going to change them. Some of the things that I'm never going to work for someone. It's just not possible. I'm just born this way. I can't tell you why. I am. And I won't be happy unless I'm pursuing work with purpose. So my number one value, Dan, is pursuing work with purpose, which to me is critical to my being. If I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, I'm not happy. And if I'm not happy, then everyone else around me is going to struggle. So helping people identify their values, mum and dad, dad and dad, mum and mum, is critical. So we help them pick 5. We help them either digitally with their advisor or in their own time. They can literally, we have Amazon's transcribe technology in the platform. So you can literally just talk like we are now, and it'll record why that value is so important to you, and it'll store it in the platform. But the critical and fun part is bringing the family together and talking about their family's values and what's the most top and most important for their values, their family. You get a lot of tears. You get a lot of deep conversations. Some advisors will scare the crap out of, because now they really, it's now we're at the, the pointy end of a conversation where mum and dad are having a pretty serious chat around what's important to them in life. But our coaching and our advice to advisors, which most great advisors do this naturally anyway, is just listen, and you'll hear everything. And this is where we're generating the 12 to 15 goals, because all the conversations that this couple are having about what's important in their life is coming out. And at that point, you got them. Like, it's, I don't mean to say that in a salesy way, but they're not leaving at that point. You have one. So, we spent a lot of time and money and effort trying to deeply understand the value sets of the Western world. And we've got them down to 16. We've got them perfect. No, but the cool things about people's values is what it means to you might be completely different to me. So a great example, and also, Dan, to your point before around the financial spouse, in this case, it was a male. He was the non-financial spouse, I should say, the male, and she was the financial spouse. And his number one value was, I want to live in a better place. So the advisors in that point going, well, he wants to move home, or they want to live in a new suburb, or move cities, or he starts crying. I'm unhappy in my life. I want to live in a better place. She's working too hard. We're not spending enough time with the kids. We don't see each other as much. Holy smokes. Like a series of conversations popped out that's completely changed their life. So what that statement might have meant to me or to the advisor was completely different to the client. But you can imagine that extraordinary empathy that in relationship you've just created with your client, who's just told you, can you help us lead a happier life? And that comes now back to sort of best life, which, what we've called our tool best life, which is, well, now that you said that means we're going to make these sacrifices. We're not going to renovate the home, because that's just going to put more financial pressure on you. In fact, we might downsize the home, but that means you can work less and you can spend more time together with the kids. Right. So it just goes on, right? Yeah. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, having been through that, not being through the full process, but being through even just a taster of that process, I can completely see when you said, I know you said it in a non-salesy way of you've got them, but that is so true because of the rarity. It's because of the rarity of this in our profession at the moment. Not many people are doing this kind of thing, and that's why let's just say you are in a vanity contest, we call them, or I can't remember what people usually call them, against another financial planning business or another financial planner who's down the road. The moment you switch the conversation and reframe the conversation to this instead of their money, which is what probably the other person down the road is doing, like you said, you've got them instantly, because they start to realize that none of that other, I'm going to swear here, by the way, so trigger warning, none of that other shit really matters. It does matter, as we all know, but it's the most important thing in life is your life and your best life, and understanding what you actually want and your values and all that kind of stuff.
And the purpose to those advisors too. What a great way to go home every night. Mm-hmm. And just say, look, every client that's walking in the doors signing up, I'm hitting all my targets, business is going great, and I'm just having these extraordinary conversations with people. Now, there's going to be some advisors sitting there, I just couldn't do that. I never want to be in a situation where the bloke is crying in front of me. I get it. And maybe this is not for you, but there might be someone in your office, and it could even be, we've got a firm in Sydney, it's the head of customer service, who sits with the clients and helps them identify their values. It doesn't need to be an advisor. So this is kind of fun, right? Think about it. We're told the advice is the product. Yeah, I disagree. I reckon the person who picks that product sits in the corner of our office, and we let them out occasionally. The people that are truly valuable in the advice process is anyone who has that ability to have that human connection. That's the most valuable person in our office. and it doesn't need to be an advisor. There is no advice in helping people live the lives that they dreamt of. There's strategy, but there's no product. So, it almost can turn the way you think about your head for your smaller business. Think about your business for smaller business. For the bigger businesses, I'm going to use a US phrase here. It's table stakes. I still don't know what it means. I've heard him say it so many times, it's not funny. Table stakes. I assume it's like you have to have it, otherwise you're not at the game, right? So, this is, if you're running a big business, you cannot have it people dependent. You cannot have it man-to-man combat. It has got to be process driven. It has to be systemized. It cannot be people dependent. If that advisor leaves, so what? We've got it all here on the technology. We know exactly last conversation has occurred. We know everything what that client's trying to achieve in their life. We know everything we've ever achieved for them in their life. So this is a must-have for anyone who's thinking about a business at scale. You have to think about how you mass personalize your advice using technology. You've already worked out how to mass deliver the investment experience because you've got your model, or you've got your in-house investment committee, or you've outsourced it to someone who knows what they're doing. Either way, that piece is hygiene, it's done, but it's not the value proposition. This is the critical success factor for any business at scale. But for even just attracting this great young talent to our profession, wouldn't it be brilliant if more females joined? And we, accounting professions 51% females, and we're 16 to 20.
Yeah.
Blind Freddie can tell you what we've done wrong. We've created a sales industry that doesn't lead to the way that females believe the world should be run. And it's hard to argue any other way, that the stats just make it true. So we want to start helping great young women join this profession and go, wow, look at the value I can add to people. And I've got this extraordinary guy in the corner who picks the investments. I mean, literally, that's the way it should be. We should be turning this on its head.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's a lot more other reasons to why we would do so poorly in terms of diversity in our profession. Like, for instance, representation is a huge part of it. Alongside all, but I think you're exactly right. This is definitely one of the big reasons, is that it's just not positioned in a way that women are going to. Again, this is a white male talking about this, so I don't want to kind of pigeonhole women into what they think, but I completely agree with you. It's not positioned in a way that women think that's going to be a valuable or a purposeful thing to them, because it's just not something that is interesting to anyone, actually.
I think advisors should do a psychology degree over a commerce degree.
And that's a good point, actually. Is that, like, I was about to say this before when you were talking, is that, like, you don't get taught any of this kind of stuff in the exams, or the qualifications that you do to be a fan. Like, you can pass your qualifications, go out and get a statement of professional standing, and you can be technically giving financial advice a couple of few weeks down the line. But as we all know, there's a lot more to it than that, and there's a lot more understanding that's needed. And that's why a lot of the time we actually say to people, there's no need to rush your way to. We have something called chartered here in the UK, which is like the next level up qualification. It's actually might be more valuable for you to go out there and do a coaching qualification, or the George Kinder qualification in the US, for instance, or something like that. You're going to get a lot more kind of applicable and operational skills from that kind of stuff, and psychological skills, than you would be from learning about stuff in the exams and the qualifications. And I completely agree with you. Psychology degree over commerce degree would be brilliant.
US, the CFP, they brought in a requirement to be able to identify that you understood your client's values, and they brought the behavioural finance through as part of the CFP. It hasn't happened in Australia. And you referenced the George Kinders as well. All brilliant, right? All brilliant, but still hand-to-hand, man-to-man combat. We wanted to create a process that replicated how damn good they are via technology. So it's assisted. Though, in my mind, we've kind of made the advisor bionic, half man, half machine. You open the shirt and there's a machine underneath it. It's the $6 million man for anyone who's old enough. 3 to 6 billion now. Technology hasn't supported the delivery of advice, And that's where you shift the game. That now everything that I've said for you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I'm helping you achieve, here it all is in one place. And that's anchoring our customer experience.
Yeah. And you mentioned I don't know if it was what you would just be talking about there or what you previously talked about, but you mentioned the term behavioral finance, or BFI is the kind of we love to. I don't know what you'd call that, an anagram. I don't know of it, and acronym. Is it be an acronym? I don't know, abbreviation, whatever. I've got an English degree. I probably know that, shouldn't I?
I'm going a ladder.
Yeah. So technically you guys do describe yourself as a behavioral finance platform, as well as all the other things as well. And I think that BFI is one of the most exciting areas of our profession at the moment, just because of the growth of it. We're really starting to understand it a little bit more. But what are you kind of seeing, maybe in Australia, and kind of what are you looking forward to, or what is your most fascinating area of BFI at the moment, do you think?
Oh, that's a tough one. I can't say it excites me that much. I think there's an extraordinary. We've done a fair bit of research in Australia. 82% of clients, when asked, would they like to align their money to their values, will say yes, and 90% of women will say yes. So I think there's an extraordinary opportunity to be reframing the way we deliver the investment experience. To be actually lead with, let me educate you about your options when it comes to investing. One of them is we can take into account your values. And what a great way to end, almost to your point before, Dan, to compare yourself against the competition, to be able to say, we've got a view on the right way to manage money, but we understand what's important to you first. And so what I think about behavioral finance, I think about this extraordinary opportunity to be able to actually define a portfolio around what's important to those clients, and almost to the point where you can't lose again, where the client says, will you do that for me? You'll design a portfolio that aligns to what, because I don't want to own into those energy companies or weapons manufacturers or anything like that. And I'd prefer to own more of Tesla or whatever reason. Yeah, can you help me do that? Yeah, of course, that's what we do here. So I've seen that it's evolving in the US. It's tried to evolve in Australia. This ability to mass customize an experience to the client's ultimate outcomes, I think, is a phenomenal way to differentiate ourselves against that robo, because robo's scared I'm going to swear again, beat shit out of me 10 years ago, and I went over the US, tried to work out what the hell it was, and it very quickly had this tide come out moment where I was like, oh man, they're all naked, like it's a model portfolio of ETFs, who cares?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Their competitive advantage is the customer experience and the cost. And they've got a great competitive advantage at that. Basically, you could sign up in 5 minutes and give them your money and away you go. So, not a bad way to do business. The problem is they're just cookie cutting everyone into the same stuff. And I think if we can, and we built this in the Lumiant platform for what it's worth, the ability to educate the end consumer about their choices when it comes to money, to say that's what we do here, whatever they want. Now we've got a proposition that's uncompetitive against any type of digital advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that where you said it's all naked. That is so true. It frustrates me when we think that robo advice or hybrid advice could be a solution to things like the advice gap and stuff like that. Again, which we're not going to talk about today, but it does frustrate me when we think that that's one of the solutions to it. Because, like you said, if we're having all these amazing conversations about how financial planning, modern financial planning, is this thing of really understanding who a human is and what they want from life and the values and the purpose and all that kind of stuff. Like you said, robo advice can never be a solution to that if that's what we think robo advice is. The term that I've seen some people use, which is I really like the term, which is tech-enabled advice, which is the idea that you let the computers and the automations and stuff like that do all the bits that humans aren't necessarily the best at, but computers are the best at. So it's all about finding which bits you're good at. So humans are really good, or most humans, or some humans, shall we say, are really good at empathy and listening and understanding what people want. Computers are terrible at that. So we'll leave the computers to do the bits that they're good at, and the humans to do the bit that they're good at instead. And when you look at it in that way, that kind of does work. But when you think about it, we've been doing that for years, really. So it's just about making that scalable to more people. And if we do that, that could solve the advice gap.
You touched on something. I loved what you said about that digital advice experience. That's kind of the DNA of what we're trying to do. I used the term bionic before. So the best advisors in the world, from my experience, and I don't have all the facts on this, but I reckon I'm close, serve about 230 to 250 clients per advisor. What are they doing that's so different from the ones that are serving 100 that can't? They've digitized their experience.
Yeah.
They've made it less about them, and the technology is supporting them in the delivery of the advice experience, so they can serve more people more profitably. And again, if you're thinking about this as a business owner and you're not doing 200 to 250, you're doing something fundamentally wrong. And I can assure you it sits in that range, 200 to 250. And if you think about the profitability of that advisor, it's extraordinary in comparison if we've got 100. So yeah, digitizing this experience, making it less about ego. In fact, checking your ego at the door and realizing that you don't have a better anything. You just have an interpersonal relationship. You have a human connection that your clients just genuinely value. I remember years ago when I was trying to work out if I should outsource the investment, I spoke to this American who I still today respect highly. And I said, mate, I'm thinking about outsourcing the investments. I think I'm going to make a big mistake here, and the clients are going to realize that I don't know what I'm doing and what are they paying for me. Never forget him in his American way, how he said it to me, but it was like, Santi, you got nothing to worry about. They like you and they trust you, and they'll continue to pay for that. And no truer thing was ever said. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't matter. It's that human connection relationship that the clients value. And as anyone who really loves this profession should be able to say, the more people I can serve, the better. That's just digitizing your experience. It's just becoming bionic. It's just getting technology that supports you in the delivery. Having been on the buy side of technology most of my career, in other words, I've been sold to by the tech industry. I've had shit experience after shit experience after shit experience. It's never done what it said it was going to do. And it's just frustrating to say, we as an advice industry, it hasn't delivered on the promise. So we really wanted to build something that delivered on that promise. We always think about Lumiant in a way that if we can get one referral that you wouldn't have otherwise got, it's paid for itself.
Yeah, I love that.
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one. So, I kind of could open a can of worms in here, but everything's been sold to us. CRM. It took me years of sitting down, and I made the mistakes. CRM, customer relationship management tool. What I realized years it took me, so I'm not the smartest guy. Where's the customer in it?
Yeah, it's not a relationship tool, is it?
No. There's no customer in it. It's a sales relationship management tool, maybe a workflow management tool. We'll call it a WRM. It ain't a customer relationship management tool. There's no customer. And again, I don't want to keep talking about Lumiant, but we sat down, and day one, our North Star was the customer. We wanted to hero them. And I keep using that word hero because they hadn't been heroed. We wanted to hero them in a platform and their journey in the advice experience. And we're knowing full well if they have a great experience, then the advisors have a great experience. This is the gap that I think is a global issue. The customer's been ignored.
Yeah, that is so true.
I couldn't care less about your performance report. I couldn't care less that you got a better custodian. I couldn't care less that you got a better tax report. I don't care that your risk profile made me 73 instead of 75. The customer, what do they want? They don't care about, the document you give them around advice. They put that in the filing cabinet. What do they want? And that's, again, if you're running a business and you're listening to this, just stop and think about them. What do they want? And I guarantee you that'll give you the best guiding light on how you deliver your experience and the technology you'll ever have, you'll buy in your firm.
Yeah. I could I honestly I couldn't. I was nodding the whole time you were talking there because that is so true. Is that we ignore the people who, let's be honest, who pay us, and I'm saying us, by the way, I mean financial planners. When we're, for instance, this comes a lot into the document that I help financial planners create for their clients. Is we always start with how is this going to be valuable to the client, and how is the client going to love this? Nothing about is this easier for you as a firm to create? That'd be nice, but the most important thing is the end client, are they going to love this? And if they are, then we've got to put it into practice. No matter how much it hurts, we can figure out all the other stuff down the line, but is the client going to? And it's like we've forgotten that everything should be client-centric first, and then how we fit regulation, how we fit compliance, how we fit process into that kind of stuff, because they are the
How
ones
can you
who are
go
going to pay
wrong?
you for your things. Yeah, they're the ones who are going to pay you, and they're going to pay you more. Sorry, go on,
Australia, we
mate.
had to regulate you're right. Australia, we had to regulate a best interest duty. We had to regulate that you act in your client's best interests. Like, for God's sake, really? I mean, this shouldn't be hard. Tell me what's important to you, what you want to achieve in your life. My job is to help you achieve it.
Yeah,
Like, we just got it wrong, and I was part of the problem. So, I can't sit here and blame anyone.
no, but you said before that you almost felt a bit guilty that you were talking about Lumiant, but to be honest, I would never stop talking about it, and I almost never do stop talking about it, to be honest. So I should have some kind of affiliate link. But yeah, you should be proud of it, and you should be really you talk about it all the time because it is a fantastic tool. The final three questions that we ask everyone. The first one is I love asking because it usually gives some optimistic answers. Hopefully you won't let us down on this one, but what are you most excited to see in the world of financial planning in the next, let's just say 10 years, the next decade? What are you most excited to see?
Well, I think it's going to be obvious that 50% of the profession is made up of women. That would be an extraordinary outcome. And I mean, we've got it so right. It would define success for me. And I hope if some way we can have something to do with that. That would be a mark that I think I'd sign off at that bit and go, I added value. I left the world a better place.
That is not what I expected from you at all, but I absolutely love it because what you're building ultimately is a client experience tool, but like you said, the knock-on effect of building that amazing client experience tool is that it actually helps diversity in the profession overall as well, which I've never even realized the pattern there throughout until you mentioned it in this episode of the podcast. I never really saw that pattern or saw that vision. You certainly didn't let us down with that one, because that is a very, very optimistic way to think of the future. I love it. And we also like to ask our guests for a book that has helped them in their career. So I'm not the biggest reader in the world. We've widened out recently to a film or to an album or to a podcast episode, anything that has helped you really get further in your career. What would you say?
I wish you didn't say a podcast. There's a podcast. Damn it, it's too late at night. It's so good. I want to grab my phone and tell you, but so I can't remember it. What is his name?
I was about to suggest something there, but there's no point in me doing that because there's literally millions of podcasts in the world.
It's so good. It's one of the best leadership podcasts I've ever listened to in my life. I'm frustrated. I can't. Hang on. Now I want to. This is going to take me a minute.
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves and the audience. I'll try and
keep
you. I'll try and keep you entertained.
It's worth the wait.
Yeah, I can guarantee that. So go make yourself a cup of tea whilst you're waiting for Santi to find. I can guarantee that this podcast that is being advertised on our podcast is going to be definitely worth it.
Now I'm trying to read it without glasses on.
I should say as well, by the way, that
Marshall Goldsmith. All right, put him class on. Marshall Goldsmith, The Essentials of Leadership on the Knowledge Project podcast.
So that is an actual podcast episode, is it?
Yeah, number 142, Marshall Goldsmith. It literally has stopped me in my tracks. I had to listen to it again and again and again and again. One thing he did in it, which I've now used when I publicly speak, was he asked everyone in this podcast, said, imagine you're 90, right? Imagine you're 90, and it's your last. You're about to have your last breath, right? So like stop you in your tracks. You're about to have your last breath. But before you have that last breath, I'm going to give you the power to go back and tell you, Dan, the younger version of you right now, who's listening to me, what to do with the rest of their life. Whatever that 90-year-old guy says to you, Dan, do that. Like, I'm getting chills on my back just thinking about it now. It's some of the best advice I've ever received in my life. Just stop and live. Like really breathe and live and enjoy. Best podcast ever I've ever listened to. And I'm never going to listen to this because I hate the sound of my own voice. So you'll be number 2.
That's good. I think that's a great question to ask. Maybe the foundations of that question could be a great question to ask clients as well when you think about it. If we're thinking about how financial planners could put this in, because that is almost what your tool helps them to do, isn't it? Is to understand their purpose.
We actually have that. We didn't steal it off Marshall. We have it already in the platform, not as articulate as he did it. And that's not the reason why it stopped me. It just stopped me. But it's in the platform as a sort of priming exercise for the clients to imagine what they want to define success of in their life.
That just, I mean, it just proves the power of a sentence and a question, because how can it's so crazy. I mean, we're going to go into all sorts of philosophy probably if I don't stop now, but how crazy is that a string of words that you heard on a podcast can completely think of all the words, think of all the bollocks you hear on a day, even just from me talking shit now. Think of all the stuff that you hear on a daily basis, and it's, what is it, maybe 14, 15 words that completely changes your perspective on life. It's just absolutely crazy. It's baffling.
Beautiful, very powerful. I encourage everyone to listen to it. It's there's a lot more in there. I mean, he calls himself, I have no reason not to believe it, the number 1 leadership coach in the world.
Good.
So I guess he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, there's nothing like being humble, is there?
Yeah. Well, a bit of that American bravado, but we love him for it.
Yeah, I get where that's coming from. Well, I think we'll stop it there because it is 10. It's 4 minutes past 10, I think, where you are. So I'm going to go and get you. You've no doubt had a very busy day, so I'm going to let you go and have a rest of your evening. But we always like to give the last word to our podcast guests to say a big thank you for coming on the show. So can you tell our audience where to find Lumiant, how to engage with you guys, and also how to connect with you yourself as well?
Well, Dan, thank you. I really enjoyed it, and it's been a really cool opportunity. So thanks again, mate. www.lumiant, Lumiant.io. That's where we are. We are most excited about entering the UK market. So I don't think it's a matter of if, it's just when, and the right team to enter with. The platform's there. I can actually get in and play with it right now if you wanted to. It's there.
Great stuff. Just to remind the audience, that was www.lumiant, and that's Lumiant.io. So go and check it out after the end of this podcast because it is a really useful tool. I must say a big thank you to Santiago because that was a really fantastic episode. So that was Santiago Burridge from Lumiant on the NextGen Planners podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can share it with people. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, so you can watch it as well, and also all the other available podcast platforms. And also we are on social media, so do give us a follow on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. And we are on TikTok as well. So go and check us out on there. And you can find everything that we do at nextgenplanners.co.uk, including our amazing community now, which is 1,000 strong. So we've got 1,000 amazing people in our movement. We also have lots of different programs that we help people with at NextGen, including the training contract, help with getting your business off the ground, our conference, which is coming up in June 2023, and also lots of different things to do with documents and marketing and stuff like that. And I should also say that if you could leave us a review, that really helps us to grow the podcast. So give us a 5-star review, let us know what we're doing well, and thank you so much for your support and for listening. But that is all for today's episode. So thank you once again to Santi for joining us on the show and for joining us so late. Thank you to you guys for listening, whatever time it is. Have a lovely rest of the day, and we'll see you all very, very soon.